Hello, everyone, and welcome to League of Leaders. I'm Zach Sutty. We have Al Fragnoli, and our special guest today is Andrew Colosimo. Andrew is a business instructor and program chair of the School of Business at Westmoreland County Community College. Andrew, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me, guys. I really appreciate it.
Great to see you. Great to see you. So, first question, we want to jump right into it. You're currently the business instructor and program chair at the School of Business at WCCC. Tell us a little bit about your role there and your career path.
Yeah, so currently, I teach 8 classes, so big course load, workload. Advise students, you develop curriculum. So the program side is slightly different. I oversee adjuncts, higher adjuncts. Make sure that our programs are up to the standards that we feel fit for our graduates. So committee work, just a lot of little things outside of the classroom stuff. A lot of people don't understand what else goes on when it comes to being a professor and a program director. But my path is really not that special in the sense that I knew what I didn't want to do, and but I knew that I kind of what I wanted to do. And what I mean by that is, I grew up in a sports household with a coach of a father. And at a young age, I knew I didn't want to be a coach full time. And mainly because of the sacrifices that I saw behind the scenes, and mainly family sacrifices. So my father, taught me, the importance of everything that is sports related. But then he also focused on family. So at a young age, I knew I didn't want to be a coach full time, but I knew that I wanted to be something like a coach. And that was a teacher. So I actually when I went to undergrad, I wanted to be a math teacher, and mainly math because I was good at it. Not I didn't like it, I didn't enjoy it, I was just good at it. And then my junior year, I went to a liberal arts college, and you have to take just random classes to fill your fill your schedule and requirements for graduation. And a couple of my teammates and buddies on the basketball team said, "Hey, you got to take this class, business law." Like, what? Like, for fun, you want me to take a business law class? So the first day I stepped into the class, and Dr. Betty Talbert steps in the classroom and just captivated me from the beginning. Like, I hung on every one of her words. Class just flew by, and I learned just so much in that 1 hour and 15-minute session. And I said, that's what I want to do. Like, I want to be her. So that next day, I actually got her as my advisor, changed my major, and went the business route. And ever since then, I didn't look back in terms of what it took to get to where I am today. So, I went to graduate school post undergrad, made some connections, made the right connections, took jobs to really position myself to get the opportunity to have the career that I have, and, worked my tail off and got there. So, my like I said, my path isn't special, but it all started with not knowing what I didn't want to do, which was coaching. But coach's son, you got to be a coach. So I figure, why not be one in the classroom?
Awesome, Andrew. That was great stuff. Thank you for sharing that with us. Those are two things that are very important to me as well: sports and education. I love your path.
Thank you.
The next question that we want to touch on here is you've been a student athlete and a coach at the college level in the past. Your father, as you touched on a little bit, is a high school coach. He's one of the winningest coaches in southwestern Pennsylvania. Talk a little bit more about what sports has meant to you and to your family.
Everything. I mean, you grew up in a coach's household, and that is everything. Yeah, I mean, I can't think of a memory that doesn't involve a sport in some way or some form. Whether that's playing, watching my 2 older brothers play, watching my dad coach, and being the mascot at a waking up, Sunday morning, Saturday morning, and going into practice with, with my dad. It's a way of life. Anybody who is a coach's son understands that, you're not the only child. My two brothers are not the only brothers that I had. We had kids in our house all the time. And I really got to see, the side of coaching that is relationship building and creating. So, in my mind, it's made me who I am. The character that I have, my beliefs, my values, all stem from, what you learn from experiencing athletics. And like I said, anybody that has participated in a sport, has been on a team, understand the commitment that it takes and the values that you take from those, those day-to-day, actions. That was my life. That was my life growing up. So sports has been everything to me. And I have to stress also, sports was not just my father and, my older brothers, seeing my mother and how she was, the number one fan and the number one critic. A lot of kids don't experience that, especially nowadays. No offense to the generation coming up, but she was probably one of my biggest critics. So to grow up in an atmosphere like that, sports was everything. It was our vacations, it was our holidays, it was our weekends. So yeah, it has been truly my life. And like I said, I wouldn't change it for the world. The things that it's taught me and instilled in me.
That's good stuff. And you mentioned a couple of things. What your family's taught you with sports and the values it brought to you and who you became and who you've become, which kind of leads me into my next question. You yourself became a leader. You were instrumental in helping build the Westmoreland County Community College men's basketball program from scratch in 2007. What was that process like, and how much did it mean to you to bring a basketball program to WCCC?
Well, it was stressful. Actually, it wasn't. You know what? In all honesty, it wasn't. It wasn't a stressful process, mainly because the college did not put pressure on on us to be successful in the sense of wins, right? So anybody that knows the history of the college and the basketball program there, they were unbelievable in basketball. I think they even had at one point had a guy go to the league at a Division III small Youngwood, nowhere, basically middle of nowhere. But the character of the players was not up to par, and that's the main reason they got rid of the program, was because of the way that the players were acting in the community. And so, to me, the pressure wasn't wins, but the pressure was really molding and building young men who, were really kind of just getting into themselves as becoming adults, right? And what that means is being a young adult. So, the pressure more came towards, like I mentioned before, with, witnessing my father and the relationship building. That's what it's about. I used to joke with my wife, who was my girlfriend at the time, that I felt more like a father at a young age than a coach, because basketball was very minimum of what our day-to-day interactions were like. It was, are your grades right? Are you getting into trouble, staying out of trouble? Do you need food? Some really basic things that we kind of, I think that I took for granted as a college player who was fortunate enough to, my meal plans were there. I just show up to the cafeteria and I had food. I didn't have to worry about, buying my books, like getting to campus, because I lived on campus. Like I didn't have to worry about those things. So, it was really, it was an interesting time for me because, like I said, I was 27. I had a player who was 30. So I'm trying to coach people who were older than me. But what it did for me was it really brought me back to my passion and love for the game and for sports in general. So it was kind of an interesting time, but it also gave me the opportunity to get into the college, my foot in the door, right? So, coming from Western Pennsylvania, we're a football and wrestling area. So I knew up front that winning was not going to be easy. But what we started to notice was that as we started kind of teaching these young men, the values that I mentioned before that were instilled in me as a young kid, they started to win just because of the relationship. It was almost like they were willing to do anything for us because we cared. And like I said, it's something I never experienced in my career because I kind of, I had a coach at home, so I always had that drive to run through a brick wall because I was told to. But really trying to, molding these young men into, into high character type kids. It was interesting, and really it was an honor in reality. So I was very blessed to have that opportunity for multiple reasons, but it really taught me the value of relationship building in a young professional, in my young profession. I didn't have to experience that throughout my life. And I'm glad I did because it's something that I carry with me, now in terms of building relationships with my students.
Andrew, Zach and I, we obviously talk extensively about leadership. And one of the things that I've heard you mention several times is relationships. And I couldn't agree with you more that leadership is all, it starts with relationships. And you mentioned right there too, that, the kids would do anything you asked them to because you showed them that you cared first. And I think that's critically important too. Zach and I have talked extensively about that. So I love what you just shared right there. So thanks for chatting a little bit there. Moving on into our next question here, there's a lot of similarities of what makes a great coach and a great professor. What are some characteristics that you feel are important to be successful that young individuals and young professionals should work on to develop as they pursue their career, maybe whether that be as a college coach or as a professor?
Yeah, see, I and this goes back to, I knew I wanted to be a coach, but not be a coach. So in my mind, they are similar. There's no difference. You're doing the same thing. It's just the knowledge that you're providing is, slightly different when it comes to whether that's something on the court or something in the classroom. You have to get those kids, individuals, to want to learn, to want to listen, to want to succeed, to believe in themselves. You're coaching them, and that's what I do. On a day-to-day basis in the classroom is coaching students. But when it comes down to it, if I had to kind of, for young professionals about being a leader in their career, in their profession, or even in their life, I think of myself as even a father and a husband. The same qualities carry over into those roles that I play. But I feel like passion is really important when it comes to being a leader and finding that passion. So to me, that passion is education. To me, that passion is helping others. So I don't work a day in my life. I'm passionate about what I do in terms of being an educator. So really, find a passion or be passionate about what you do in order to be a good leader. I always talk, especially with my children, about grit. I have 3 kids, and I'm teaching them every day. You fall off your bike, get up. True story. Sorry if I sidebar here, but my daughter just learned how to ride her bike 2 weeks ago. We went to a local trail, and she's first time riding, on a trail other than like we were up at the high school around the parking lot. This is her first time actually riding her bike. And we're on this trail, and it's right on the Youghiogheny River. And it's literally a sheer drop off cliff. And my daughter, we go to turn around, and she turns, and she is going 100 miles an hour right for the cliff and actually goes over the cliff. I dove off my bike, grabbed her, and clung to a tree. We're literally hanging on a tree. My wife comes over. I push my daughter up. She is in tears. My wife is in tears. And the first thing I said when I got up was, "You need to ride back. You need to get back on your bike." She was deathly afraid of that bike, but she rode back. And, to me, that is important in everything that we do is, get back on that bike. I don't care if it's a failure or a success. Some people succeed so much that they feel like they don't have to try anymore. But to me, grit is failure, success. It's just keep doing it. So as a leader, I feel like you have to have that grit. You have to learn to develop that grit. The relationship building is really important. When I think about it in terms of my profession, I'm always building a team, and what that means is, whether that's I'm hiring faculty that I know have the passion and have the knowledge and have the ability and have the skill to really educate, or if it's finding people in the college that, if I need help, I know who to go to. If a student is having a problem, I know what direction to point them into. So I'm always stressing, build a team, because leadership is nothing if you don't have the right team behind you or, alongside you in reality. And the last thing would be, just don't give up. Play, I use a lot of metaphors for sports. And I always remember, play to the whistle, play to the whistle, play to the whistle. And, it's so true. If you're up 100, down 100, or you're tied, you play your heart out until it's over. And, if you can develop that in your, in your professional life, in your personal life, success is going to happen, and you'll definitely, be a good leader for it. So those are probably the main things that I would say, those characteristics, that would carry over to really any profession.
That's all great stuff, and we talk about grit here quite a bit. It's Angela Duckworth's book. Grit is one of my favorites. So I love that you mentioned that, and love the story about your daughter. I mean, perfect example of getting back on the bike, metaphorically and figuratively, and
yeah.
Appreciate that. So,
of course.
Last question, Andrew. What closing words of wisdom or advice would you give to aspiring leaders looking to make an impact as coaches or professors?
Words of wisdom. Let's see here. So
one of those coach speaks, play to the whistle.
Yeah, you know what? I mean, I feel like you guys do a great job of kind of hitting on everything. And even this conversation that we've had, there's a lot of little nuggets in there that would be, kind of advice or words of wisdom. But I'd say two that maybe that aren't talked about a lot when it comes to leadership and your profession, personal life. The first one would be just take time for yourself. I tend to really put a lot of people ahead of myself when it comes to decisions that I make. I think about a day for me. I'm making a decision for 3 kids, for a wife, friends, family, my students. A lot of times you kind of forget when you get into that routine, you kind of forget about yourself. So, your physical and mental health are so important when it comes to being a leader, for many different reasons. It just makes you a better leader, but then it also, people are more willing to follow if they see that you're, taking care of yourself as well. So I would say, stay physically active at some level, and then definitely mentally active, or, mental health wise. I do mindful meditation, and that's not for everybody, but finding something to mentally, get through the tough times, whether that's in a day, a week, or a year. So that's definitely one piece. And then the last one I would say is just enjoy the ride. I think about my path and where I got to today, and all the hard work and all the little successes and major failures that I have had along the way. But we really don't take a lot of time to appreciate you know, those moments, because we're too focused on that vision and that end result. So the process, the little things, the little details that you do on a daily basis, focus on those, focus on the process, and, you know, the bigger things will come. So yeah, that would be my word of wisdom. Focus on the little things, the process.
Andrew, all great stuff. We appreciate you
guys.
being here. Love talking to coaches, love talking to teachers, and love it when it's one individual who did both or does both. So
I fit 2 quotas. All right,
yeah.
perfect.
So thanks for
Hey.
being here, and
Yeah.
to our listeners and our viewers, Andrew Colosimo, Westmoreland County Community College, and check us out on Hot Topic Tuesday next Tuesday and next Sunday when we have another special guest. Thank you.
Awesome. Hey, thank
Thanks,
you guys. I
Andrew.
really appreciate it.
Appreciate it.